Get ready, guys, for episode number 8 with the founder and CEO of Southern Fried Chicks. Welcome, Liz Ross. Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat. Hey, welcome back, Boutique Chat listeners. Thanks so much for tuning into today's show because I know that today is a show that has the opportunity to inspire you for a lifetime. So I want to kick off this week on a more serious topic, one that I invite you to share with me if you're comfortable over on Instagram at AJ Alderson or at Boutique Hub Business. And it's all about the greatest challenge that you've faced in your life this far. I'm wondering, have you ever faced a mortality moment in your life? A time when your life was literally in question, or it was at a significant crossroads, or maybe it was the life of someone close to you. You know, there's something about being face to face with that ultimate question of who am I and did I matter that has the power to change our entire future. In fact, I can remember my own mortality moment 10 years ago. I was a young college student. I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof, without a doubt. And I was sitting in a doctor's office hearing those words that I had cancer. It was Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2B. And I remember that moment like it was yesterday. Because while those that were around me were crumbling in shock, I can remember feeling a switch turn on inside me. It was like a drive that said, it's on, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to turn this thing around and beat it. It was a natural human instinct, and I think it was that will to live that we all have. So after 6 months of chemo, and yes, all of the lovely things that come with it, my cancer was finally in remission. Glory to God. And finally, that time that had stood still for so long was mine again, and I was free. You know, that moment changed the rest of my life. And it's one of the reasons that I admire today's guest so much, because she too has had a major mortality moment. And it was layered even deeper with a triumphant story of overcoming adversity from a very young age. Faced with her own life or death situation, our guest today chose life, and her future was literally changed forever. She then went on to build a multi-million-dollar business, one that's caught the attention of TV producers currently, and I'm sure someday will also land her a book deal. With 1.5 million Facebook fans and over 175,000 followers over on Instagram, plus a wholesale collection and a loyal tribe of Southern women, today's guest is Liz Ross, the founder and CEO of Southern Fried Chicks. Not only is Liz going to share her inspiring story with us today, but she's also going to take us into her business, their growth, and her love-hate relationship with Facebook. Plus, she's going to share with you a crucial security tip for your business that you are going to want to take note of right away. I know I did as soon as she mentioned this story to me. Our Hub team is also so excited to announce that Liz is going to be a featured guest speaker at the 2018 Boutique Summit this June in Dallas, Texas. So if you are interested in attending the summit, make sure you stay tuned for details over in our members area at theboutiquehub.com or at theboutiquehub.com/summit. All right, guys, let's get started this week and meet our dear friend and a true boutique boss, Liz Ross. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited today to be with someone who is such an inspiring leader, business owner, and entrepreneur, Liz Ross, the owner and founder of Southern Fried Chicks. Hey Liz.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's kick this off. I think we have to start at a place where if you've been following boutiques for any period of time, you must know what Southern Fried Chicks is because you guys were a pioneer in the industry. Talk about the business and where it's at today and how people can find you.
I started Southern Fried Chicks 5 years ago. It grew leaps and bounds. I literally thought that I was going to have to work the store by myself for 2 years. That was like my, business plan was to open the store, work it myself for 2 years, and then hire my first employee. And that did not happen. It was like the first week I had to hire like 3 or 4 people to help me. People were just knocking down the door. And within the last 5 years, the company has just skyrocketed. Every single year, we are just experiencing just astronomical growth. A lot of things have happened. We are manufacturing our own brand now, which is kind of my background where I came from. And we just have so many really cool, exciting things going on now. We're moving to a new warehouse, which is like 45,000 square foot. It's huge. We don't know what we're going to do with it at first. Probably have a skating rink in it. I kind of want to have like a campus type atmosphere because, we're very much like family here. I try to keep in tune with all of my employees. I don't want to ever grow so big that we don't feel like it's a family environment. So we're super excited about that. We have a new website coming. We have a lot of work to put in the next, in this first quarter, and even the second quarter, we're going to probably see ourselves really trying to make sure that this new season comes in and we really hit it hard, but we also have all these other jobs that we've piled up on top of ourselves. But we're kind of overachievers around here, so I think we can do it.
We were just chatting offline before we started the show about the term busy and how busy isn't a period in time, is it? It's a way of life, right? If you're not busy doing one thing, it's going to be another.
Oh, yes. Like I said, I tend to daydream about, taking a month off and actually doing nothing and, getting in my Airstream and just going somewhere and, no phones, no internet, nothing. And, I guess people want what they can't have. But, I tend every morning when I wake up after that daydream, when I'm going to sleep, I wake up and I'm ready to, hit the ground running. As soon as my feet hit the floor in the morning, I am working immediately. That's just, I create it. I guess I create my own madness.
And with the business that you've built, it's pretty astounding just to look at that madness that you have created. You've got a multi-million-dollar business. It's one of the fastest growing boutiques in the country, 1.5 million Facebook fans, and 175,000 on Instagram, which is unbelievable. Do you sit back some days just kind of in awe of how this has all come together?
I wish that I could, honestly. My days are spent tending to a lot of the things that are going on here in the warehouse and just my employees. I have, I have a pretty large amount of employees at this point, and there's just always something that needs to be addressed. So, I don't really get to sit back and kind of soak it all in. Hopefully one day I will be able to. I'm going to enjoy looking back on that. But yeah, it's crazy. I know this sounds crazy, but, I feel like it's not really me. I give all the credit to God. I think that I've been blessed, and, sometimes blessings are, he'll just put it on your plate and you have to listen to it. And it doesn't matter how hard it is or how much time it takes to, get through some of these things. That is just your job, so that's the way I look at it. But, hopefully one day I'll be able to stop and smell the roses a little bit.
Well, you say that, and it's a pretty amazing story because you're very humble. Because you built something amazing, but behind that, there's much more to it than meets the eye, isn't there? I would love for you to talk about the backstory of your life and kind of how you came to be an entrepreneur, because I think from the surface, sometimes people look at a business and think, wow, it must be nice, building something so great. But oftentimes they miss the struggles that we have to face on our way to achieving that goal, right?
Right. Social media, you see the surface a lot of times, and we try to break through that surface and show people who we really are, but it's hard to really touch all those people, so yeah, they definitely are just going to kind of scan over and their impression of us or whatever, but there's a lot to it. There's a whole lot, especially with us. And I know I'm not taking away from anyone else's, hardships or anything like that, but it was a long, rocky road to get to this point for myself.
Mm-hmm. Can you go back to that? Can you go back to your childhood and kind of that overcoming of adversity that you went through?
Yes. So, it would take hours and hours to really tell my story. It's probably a book eventually, but, my mother and father, there's 8 of us, but my father, he was born in 1933. My mom was born in 53. So there was a big, pretty big age gap there, but I have other brothers and sisters, and, my parents, they didn't work out, and my mom, she struggled, and she came from a very poor background. My grandparents, they didn't have running water. We didn't have indoor plumbing. So I found myself a lot of times, just struggling. My whole family did. My mom sometimes even had a hard time putting food on the table. So I remember being hungry a lot. But my mom was there for me, but she only had the tools that her parents gave her as well. And so, I went through a lot of difficult stuff, and, I don't want to go into a lot of it, but there's been times where, I didn't even want to live anymore because of people hurting me. And when you're subject to those types of things, you can get hurt, especially a girl, so if you don't have people protecting you, so I went through a lot of really bad things like that. And I was always super headstrong. My parents both are very, very powerful personalities, and you just had to really fend for yourself in the environment that I was in. So I became very strong-willed. I just, even in school, I didn't do well in school because I don't think I really had to, but I would go to school, and I was popular because I was never scared to say anything to anyone, and maybe maybe people thought I was funny. I don't know why I was popular, but I had a lot of friends. But I got in a lot of trouble because I was kind of raising myself. And, I did do well in art, and I did do well in any type of activities or anything. But as far as being book smart, I just didn't have it. And my attention span was so short. I've never been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but I'm pretty sure that I have it. So I ended up, looking back, I pretty much had F's my whole life. So school it was really difficult for me. And then by the time, I was 14 years old, my mother and we just bucked heads so much, and I had gotten in a lot of trouble, and I didn't really respect her for a lot of things. And so she ended up kicking me out at 14. I left home, and I was just kind of astray for many years. It was tough. I've gone through depression. I've gone through drug abuse, long stints of drug abuse. I even have, a history with the law, I've gone to jail. I didn't spend long periods of time in jail, but there were times where I got in trouble and I have a record. And there was one day I just said, you know what? I was just fighting. I was putting all my energy into not knowing what, my future was like. I felt like I was out of control all the time. And just one day it just hit me. I was like, I'm in control of my own destiny. And I don't know what really made me just kind of snap and not, I blamed a lot of people in my past for where I was. And the day that I decided not to blame anyone anymore, but to hold myself accountable, was the day that my life changed. And so I just started working really, really hard. I didn't have an education. So obviously I was doing, odd jobs and waiting tables and things like that. And I would even go to the flea market, and I would make jewelry or keychains or dream catchers and things like that. And I would sell them, and they'd sell out immediately. But I had a hard time I didn't have anywhere to live for a long time, and I didn't have transportation. So holding a job down was very difficult for me. If you don't have a support group and you don't have any transportation, that's how people really end up in bad situations and just never come back from it, because it's just difficult to climb out of that hole. but I was determined. I went from job to job, but eventually saved enough of money where I could purchase a vehicle. And then of course it would break down because it wasn't a very nice car. But I just always had these kind of experiences. It was just like another hurdle to climb. But every single time it would knock me down, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to let this happen. It's not going to beat me. I'm not going to let this, and I still to this day, had those same types of feelings. And then, I had my daughter. I got pregnant with my daughter. I said that I was never going to have children, and she wasn't planned, but it was definitely the best thing that ever happened to me, because once I had her, it made me want to get out of the bar type scenes where I was bartending and waiting tables. And I wanted something that was going to me, that I could be proud of for her, and that she could be proud of her mom. And so from the day that happened was another turning point in my life where I said, you know what, I've got to do better than what I'm even doing now. So I just always have these goals, and, I set goals and I try to crush them. I just don't want to back down from a challenge, and it's hard, but yeah. So, that's kind of the short of it. I could get, pretty graphic with some of the things that I've been through, but it was a very, very difficult life. It really was. But, I am living proof that if you want better, you can have better.
We could spend all day and then some on this topic. And yes, I think a book is probably in the future. Yeah. Really what you've gone through. But do you remember, like, during that time, was there an influence that you can remember, a book that you read, someone you met, something someone said to you that was like a light or an aha moment that you finally were able to make that mindset shift and see that there was a way out for yourself?
Yes. Honestly, this is completely honest and transparent. I had friends that were dying from drug overdoses, and this was at a time where I was also doing drugs, and I had been for a while. I had overdosed, and I did not die. And so God just is like, it was weird. It was just like, I had a message from God that said, hey, this is it. This is your last chance. You either straighten up or, it's just kind of weird. I don't know if you've ever had an experience or if you believe in that type of stuff, but I just had something come over me that said, look, this is it. This is, you've got to change. And that was the turning point for me, and to not accept this type of stuff that I've seen my whole life, or that I had experienced my whole life, that I thought was the way that you're supposed to live. And I just had like an awakening that day. And ever since then, I never touched it again, and it was just, I can only give it to God, because that is exactly what happened.
That gives me goosebumps just to hear that mortality moment and facing that. Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that's the truth.
Yeah. Well, glory be, first of all, that is amazing. And God's got power that we don't even know how to begin to understand. So hearing that is a true testimony. Do you feel like today, kind of when you look back on that, when you fight, because we all kind of fight from time to time, I think as entrepreneurs too, going back to being depressed or overwhelmed, or even going back to a dark place, are there things that you remember from that time, sayings or motivation, or even just reliving that moment inside of yourself that pull you out of those dark times that still may come today?
I guess in a sense, yes, it's more of a feeling. It's not like really having to pep talk myself. It's just like, hey, you've overcome way more stuff than this. Stop being a baby. This is nothing. what you've gone through. Hello. I mean, it could be way worse, Liz. But I tend to internalize everything, and I take everybody else's and put it on my plate. I'm really bad about that. The lady today, she told me, she said that I'm empathize with everybody, or like I hold it. And she's right. I don't even know the word for that, but I carry not only my stuff, I carry everybody else's stuff around too. So I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah, I've heard that. You're not alone. Is that an empath or something like that?
Exactly. Yes. She's like, quit being a mirror. Quit being a sponge and be a mirror. Look in the mirror and be a mirror, not a sponge. So that was pretty strong, and this lady, she cooks for me. I have Crohn's disease. So that's another thing that I have to deal with as well. And I don't know if it was stuff that I did to myself or it started when I had my daughter after I had my C-section. Immediately after that, I developed Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis after my C-section. But so she cooks for me, but she's such a huge, makes a huge impact in my life because not only does she help me with my body, and she helps me with my soul. And she's just like, stop being a sponge and be a mirror. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty deep.
That is deep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Do you think, as you listen to people like Gary Vee and all these inspiring people on social media, as they're talking about their stories of how they got to where they are, Gary Vee flunked out of school and had all these adverse things happen. Do you think that challenge that you figured out how to overcome was what sparked your entrepreneurial spirit?
I think so. I think a lot of it has to do with, for me, maybe not for everyone else, but I think it was kind of a defense mechanism for a long time. It was just like that I had no choice but to think of new ideas and put things in motion, because if I didn't, because I didn't have anything, I didn't have any safety net. So it wasn't any time where I could just kind of sit back and idle. So I think that has a lot to do with me always feeling like I need to go to the next phase or need to grow or need to change, because I'm just so used to it because of, things have happened. So much has happened in my life. So I'm just maybe more, desensitized by change, I think. And so I feel like that's probably why I'm the way that I am, because of having to overcome all that stuff. But I'd like to think that my daughter, she's probably not going to have to deal with as much as I did as a child or a teenager. But I'm hoping that she's able to have that same spirit as I do. But I don't know the answer to that. That's something that I still haven't really figured out for myself. So it's a question that I have in my mind every day, why people were wired different like that.
How did you get started when you had your daughter, then you went into the children's line, and then began Southern Fried Chicks after that? How did that transition come to be?
Well, the recession, it was huge. So I was basically selling wholesale to, tons of different small boutiques in America. And once the recession hit, my outfits were selling for, retail, above $100, sometimes upwards in like $200. And it was pretty well known. It was, it was like one of, where the ruffles and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like the smocked stuff. It was kind of like, I was one of the pioneers of that, where it was like the more kind of like Matilda Jane ended up after me, where she kind of took kind of that same look. And I'm sure a lot of people know who Matilda Jane is, but just the whole ruffle thing, that was what Chatty Patty was. So, but it was expensive because it had a lot of fabric. And so whenever the recession happened, I sold to bigger brands like Zulily. I was like one of the first people that Zulily put on. It was like in the beginning phases of Zulily. They were probably doing it out of their garage, and even Hot Look and Rue La La and all those like flash sale type companies. I was doing a lot of business with them because my stores were going out of business left and right. And they were actually, I had given a pretty good bit of people net terms, and, I had extended the terms myself. It wasn't like I did it through CIT or anything like that. So when they went out of business and they had the product, I didn't get the product back. The bank owned the product. I took a pretty big hit with that. So I just, there was a lot of ways that I was able to restructure the company and downsize because I didn't have a lot of employees. So I was able to kind of go with the flow when the recession did happen, and I started working with Zulily and companies like that. And so, but I got really bored with the numbers game, because you're sitting in front of a computer all day long. I did design and manufacture, and I flew to New York, and I worked with my, sourcing agents, and I did all that kind of stuff. But it just got so, I was behind a computer screen, and, I'm right brain. I need to talk to people. I need to be able to interact with people. And so I just started going to trade shows myself, which was more of like the, like Southern Women's Show, Southern Christmas Show, Junior League shows, so I could get out and about and just talk to people again, because I worked from home. I was a single mom, and it was like I felt like I was just kind of in my dungeon all the time, and I didn't sew anymore, but it was just more of a lot of spreadsheets and things like that. And, some people enjoy that, but I don't. So then I started going to these trade shows and doing these cash and carry things. And it was just so much fun, and I enjoyed it. And I just felt that happiness again, and just the passion was coming back to me. And so I started buying women's stuff, because at that point my daughter was older and everybody still loved Chatty Patty, but my interests were changing. And I noticed a shift in the market, because back before the recession, people were spending ridiculous amounts of money on clothing. And during that time, whenever everybody, Zulily, it skyrocketed. I saw all these other flash sale companies start to really do well. I'm like, you know what? I've got to offer women's and children's clothing at an affordable price, because people still want to look the same. You don't want to look any different because don't have the same amount of money. Your taste is your taste. And so I decided that I wanted to offer a lower price point at that point. And I said, I was just really dedicated to be able to find the look for less. And this was, 6 years ago. And so I started bringing these, some of these things that I would pick out, like jewelry. Because jewelry is affordable. You could spend $20 to $40 on a piece of jewelry, and sometimes that's kind of makes your outfit. So I started out with jewelry and handbags and just really fun niche things, and then I started going into clothing for women. I didn't make it. I was just buying it, and it went crazy. It took off at those shows, and I was posting it on my own Facebook page, and so many people were coming to my house wanting my clothes, wanting me to do, home parties, and I couldn't handle the amount of people that were coming to my house wanting to try on these clothes and stuff. And not to mention, I didn't want to have my house clean all the time. And I had worked from home for a long time. I could work in my underwear for years. So I didn't want people coming to my house. So I had to decide to open a store within a month. And so that's what I did. I opened a store, and as soon as I opened the doors, my idea with the company Southern Fried Chicks. It was a little store for people to be able to come and buy those things that I was picking out for women, and have a design studio in the back where I'm not designing out of my home still, and to be able to work out at my Chatty Patty, have just kind of like my corporate office in the back. I still have my distribution center in Fort Mill that would ship and pick and pack and everything but I didn't have to have the inventory stock with me for Chatty Patty. So I could have a little small space and a little store, but that's not how it went down. It was like people just were basically, before I even was opened, I had to open the store several days before we were even able to do our soft opening, because I couldn't even paint the walls without people knocking on the door. It was crazy. It was insane. So, but yeah, that's how it ended up happening. And then the progression of Southern Fried Chicks, that's a whole nother story, but that's how it started.
So it was in person and the vendor shows first, mm-hmm. and then e-commerce that took off like wildfire second. Yes.
The e-commerce didn't come until a little bit later. And the reason why e-commerce came was because, number one, I had already had websites with Chatty Patty, but I had I had a wholesale website. I never did retail because I didn't want to compete with my customers. That was back then. That was a big, no. Our the stores, those higher end boutiques, they didn't want to compete with you. It was a different game back then than it is now. Now people just, brands don't care. They'll sell to wholesale and they'll sell retail. There's just no lines really with that, I don't think, anymore. Maybe there are. If there are, I don't know about them. But back then, I didn't compete with my customers. I wanted them to feel like I was protecting their price point, because I could put it on sale a lot easier than they could. And I still could do that now. So, that's just kind of the way that it works, because my margins are better at retail, But yeah, so.
How did you make that e-commerce site then when you started on the retail side with Southern Fried Chicks? How did that take off? Was it those local customers who were already so excited about what you were doing They jumped on and shared it with their friends and it went viral, or how'd that go?
So I started a website because I was already already was aware of e-commerce, just in a different level, but I was doing wholesale, but I had a lot of traffic wholesale. So I was already doing it, but just on a wholesale level. So with that already being something that I'm used to, I'm like, I would just have to have a website because I already had websites. It was like, I probably had 4 websites with Chatty Patty. And so, it was just one of those things. You've already done it several times. Why wouldn't you do it with this company? So I opened it with not any like real hopes of that was going to completely take off, because I didn't think that I could sustain it anyway. With already having Chatty Patty opening the store was like really hard to handle because it literally, the first month that it was open, I couldn't believe how much sales I did. And I didn't even decorate the place. It really looked very makeshift. But, when I did open the website, it wasn't like this full on, like, great e-commerce platform. It was just like just a really inexpensive website. So I started a Facebook page because I was tired of people asking me to buy stuff on my personal page at that point. So I opened, the Southern Fried Chicks pages, and we had 2,000 followers within like a couple weeks. And I'm like, whoa, like I am on to something. Something is up with this Southern Fried Chicks thing. Maybe I need to start thinking about it a little bit more than Chatty Patty. So I started really actively myself putting all my time into the social media part of Southern Fried Chicks, not Chatty Patty anymore. And once I shifted that energy into that one, it completely skyrocketed. Okay, so it didn't go viral until probably about 3 to 6 months later. I'm not sure the timeline, but there was a day, and this is crazy. I don't even know if you would believe this, or who's going to believe this. But the day that I went viral, my employees, when I was posting the picture that I was going to post, it was before all the algorithms and everything. Mm-hmm. And it was a picture of a giveaway that I was going to do. And my employees thought that I was crazy. They're like, oh my God, you're going to post that. That looks awful. And I'm like, but this is my company. I'm going to post it, and you guys have to respond to the post. I get a lot of kickback from some of the people that work for me because I always push the envelope. But I posted it anyway. But the post before I posted the giveaway was a note, and I hope I'll try to send it to you one day. But it's saying all these beautiful things, and it was just like a handwritten note, and at the end it was signed God. That was the post that I posted right before this other one. This other post with the bracelets, it went viral. The giveaway, it went viral, and literally for like a month, my phone at the shop, I would pick it up. It would ring. I would pick it up. People would ask me to buy these bracelets. I would hang up, and then they would call me right back. It literally went viral, and it lasted for a very long time. My website at the time we didn't have stock really right in the website. I was just a little tiny store. The thing that I did share on the giveaway, it was in the website because obviously I was trying to sell it online, but it let the set of bracelets order infinity. So I woke up the next day after this thing went viral, and I had 500 orders in the queue just for that one set of bracelets. And I'm like, I don't even have 500 bracelets. What am I going to do?
How many did you have on stock at that time?
Oh, probably like 5. I don't know. Maybe 1. I don't know. That's a good question. Probably 1. But with, the way that I am, I was like, there is no way I'm not going to get these people what they want. I am going to get them what they want. People wanted them so bad that I couldn't turn away, So I ended up finding the manufacturer because I have a manufacturing background. I kind of know some of the secrets. I've been doing it for a long time. I knew how to, kind of smoke it out, I guess you would call it, or I would call it. And I found these bracelets. I found the supplier in China, and I ordered like 30,000 of them, and I sold every single one of them. So that's how it started.
That is so awesome. Oh my gosh, all these bracelets. Did you save some for yourself so you have a keepsake? I hope you did.
No, I didn't. I'll sell everything that I have. I don't keep anything, honey. No. If I can sell it, I am going to sell it.
Man. So at that time, did you know when you were building it? I mean, a lot of times when boutiques get started, their ideal customer is a lot like themselves, a lot like the owner. Did you
Yeah.
feel like it went viral because you immediately were sharing some of who you were, like that note from God that you shared before those bracelets?
I'd hope to think so. When your company gets out of hand, when it grows that fast, it's really hard to really, build your branding because the company kind of took a life of its own. It still does. I mean, I call it taming the beast. All right, I'm going to go in and tame the beast today, because that's what it is. If you don't tame it, it has a life of its own. And, now I'm trying to, like I said earlier with you before we started, I'm trying to slow down to go faster. I can't really infuse who I am and what I want to do because the sales are so rapid, and trying to keep up with the orders and trying to make sure that the customer service is on point. So then I have all these behind the scene things that I'm dealing with, and I can't really even focus on putting that out there. But I really, really hope that I can. And this is a start of that. Me taking the time. Before, I would have never sat down to talk to anyone. I've never done PR. I've never done for that matter, I haven't even done like much SEO or, I haven't done Google AdWords, all these things that everybody's so like really wrapped up in. I haven't been able to do because I've had to wrangle this whole like crazy beast of a company and not knowing anything about it, and trying to teach myself as I go.
So let's talk about that because I'm sure there's people that are going to be listening going, but how? But how do I replicate that or how do I do that? Which you and I both know some of that is luck, God, being in the right place at the right time, and just having that magnetic energy and personality, right?
Absolutely. Energy is very important. Energies. And I'm worn out a lot, it's difficult. People ask me how all the time. I wish I could tell them, but I think, yes, it's luck. And there's also, blessings and all that stuff. But it's also, you have to put work before yourself. Usually. Yes. I have lost a lot of myself in the process because it's really hard to balance. I used to work out every day. I used to, be able to spend time with I still have my Christmas tree up. That is a real thing that's happening in my life. I was lucky to have a Christmas tree. I didn't have a Christmas tree for 4 years. That's no joke. So I wasn't even able to have a Christmas tree because throughout the holidays, I didn't even know it was the holidays because I'm having to make sure that everybody else's holidays are okay and that they get what they want. So, you have to put your customers before yourself, and you have to put your employees before yourself because if they're out sick, you got to jump in and do their job. That's your job. That's your title, So if you're not willing to, if you're not willing to give up your, things that you want for yourself, you're not gonna be able to succeed in this type of business. It's a very selfless business because you have to be here. You have to be present. If you step out for, a week or two, you come back and there's a lot that's happened because it is fast fashion, and it's been coined fast fashion, and it's the truth. I feel like it's the truth. It's so hard to plan. It's so hard to even, gauge what is going to happen because it is fast fashion. And I think, and this is probably a topic that we can talk about in a little bit, hardest part about dealing with fast fashion. I mean, this is a space, this is a niche, and I am in that type of fast fashion niche. I'm trying to change that with manufacturing and building my brand because I am relying on so many different small companies that are affordable prices for my own success, and their quality and their timing and the way that they send their POs or their boxes or their quality control, that all affects me. So that's the hardest part. It's really, really, really difficult dealing with these brands that we're dealing with.
I want to come back and definitely talk about that. I want to talk more about wholesale, but I want to go back to something you mentioned just a minute ago first, and that's your team. I want to go back to that because you can't do it alone. You already got to be selfless. How do you keep your team engaged? How do you build culture, and how do you retain them once you've got them hired?
So with okay, so that's going to be probably a long-winded question. I mean, answer too. So with me being who I am, I tend to want to gravitate to people that I might be able to help make a difference in their life that doesn't necessarily have the training or the experience. And so if I feel good about you in my gut a lot of times, then, you're hired. I'm going to find something for you to do. That has hurt me and that has helped me. The way that it's helped me is it has created an environment that I can stand to work in because of the people, and to know that we are trying to do something different. But at the same time, that they're not, a lot of times they're not experienced in what we're doing here. So, it can cause problems and some setbacks. But at the end of the day, I have to remember this is not just about how far we can go. It's about, how we're going to do it while we're doing it, and how many people we can make happy. That's what I really like to focus on. And the customer comes first. And then the people that do work here, they love it. They're very passionate people as well. So they tend to really love the company, but a lot of times they get way over invested emotionally because it is hard, and so they pick up on like a lot of the things that I'm going through, and they want to, dive in and try to help with a lot of those things. And it's difficult. And sometimes it breaks them, because it's not a regular company. It's not a regular kind of job. So you learn a lot working here. And a lot of the people that are here now, they're so ready. They're so ready for the next step. All these big things that we're doing. There's people that it has broken and they come back now. It's just so funny. Like even yet today or yesterday, I got a friend request on Facebook from a girl that I thought I would never see again because she was just so upset when she left here. But now she's looking back on it. She's like, wow, it's a lot of hard work, and it's blood, sweat, and tears, and it's very gritty. It's not fabulous. And, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get in the fashion industry. It's going to be, glamour, glitz and glamour, but that's not what this is about. Maybe having a storefront is that way, but even a storefront, you're having to open boxes, steam clothes, you're having to put it out. It's kind of dirty too. It's a gritty job. And so some of these girls, they come in thinking that it's going to be some kind of like, fashion show all the time, and it's just not. And so I think keeping them around is if they can make it through a couple seasons, then they're good to go. They're going to stay here. But sometimes, especially during Cyber Week and Cyber Monday, I mean, people fall off. It's hard because you've got to work. And when everybody else wants to be with their family at Thanksgiving, when everybody wants to be Christmas shopping, we're just not allowed to do it. We're having to work overtime at that time, so it's hard.
Do you think the same is true? I apologize for interrupting. Do you think the same is true, not just for your employees, but also new retailers in this industry? Do you think new boutique owners come in and don't always know how hard it is to give up?
Absolutely. I just remember my daughter having to go to sleep underneath, my desk a lot of times, even on school nights, because, you had to be there. If your sales were down that day and you had a big shipment that come in that you've already paid for, well, you're going to have to tag it and price it and put it out, because you're leaving money on the table if you don't. And you've got to pay payroll, and you have to, you have to filter that product out. And that's another thing. I've never had business loans. All this is paid for. It's all paid for cash. So, that's another reason why it's so difficult for me, because I never wanted to bite off more than I could chew. And I didn't want to have a bunch of business loans, or I want to be able to sleep at night when I do get home to sleep, so, but yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And if you have a family, you just have to prepare yourself. Your child is going to have to be infused into your business. There's
Right.
really no separation with my life. I don't have a balance. My balance, everything's the same for me. Even when I'm on vacation, I'm still working. And even if it's not that I'm on my phone or on a computer, there's people asking me what I do for a living. And then I always find myself in these conversations because they're just like, they want to know more. They want to know more. So I end up having conversations about Southern Fried Chicks all the time. So, yeah.
Would you say that the benefits far outweigh some of those challenges? Like as you look back, do you say to yourself, I wouldn't have it any other way? It's a challenge. Balance is a struggle, but by gosh, I am here.
Absolutely. I would never change one thing, even if I do not make it. If something happens and Southern Fried Chicks falls into the earth and burns, or I would never change one thing, only because I followed my heart.
Let's go back to that how, because you are spot on with where you've come from, what you've created, and it's 100% worth it. When people are listening and they want to get there too, let's talk about riding that Facebook algorithm wave, right? Some people talk about the stock market crash, and we talk about the Facebook algorithm crash. How do you ride those waves and still continue to grow through all of that?
That is really hard because that's a really bad subject for me right now because I'm really dealing with that right now emotionally. I have invested so much time, money, and just everything, my heart and soul into, social media platforms. So Instagram, I didn't jump on that boat as soon as I should have. If I would have had probably over 1 million followers too. But with Facebook, I have spent so much and even helping them create their platform. If it wasn't people like me that has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, they wouldn't have all the money that they have to be able to do all these powerful things. And, I feel like we're going through some more shifts and changes again. I know we are with Instagram, but even with Facebook, it's just a constant change. And I understand that you have to keep it fresh. But I think that the way that they have, basically decided who sees what has just really put a bad taste in my mouth because I have followers that have chosen to like me because they want to like me. They want to see my stuff. And now they don't have the chance to even see it unless I pay for it. And I think that's wrong because I paid my dues with them. And so now with the percentage rate that sees my actual post, it's very depressing. It really is. And so if I would have spent all of that money that I have put into Facebook, into Instagram, into my own SEO or my own, manufacturing, where would I be right now? Because right now I feel like I've been robbed. I feel like I'm getting like strong arm robbed every day because of the way that Facebook is doing everybody at this point. So it's a pretty bad subject with me right now because I have spent so much money.
Yeah, and you're not alone. I hear that so much. Do you feel like you're working right now to diversify what that looks like?
I mean, I'm just trying to swallow the big pill. I'm trying to swallow the big pill emotionally that I basically feel like I'm getting robbed. I don't know if you've ever been broken into before or had anybody break in your house, but it's very similar feeling that when you put so much in trust and investment into something and then someone just basically takes it from you. Or it's just like, just kidding, So right now, emotionally, that's what I'm dealing with it. Now, internally, we are having meetings every day and we are trying to somewhat, figure out how to keep our same business model. I've had to change my business model so many times because of our social media. And that is really difficult. But if you're wanting to, stay in this social media game, that's just what you got to do, and we're not ready to give up on it yet, because look how many followers we have, what do you do? What do you do at this point? But, that's another reason why we're doing a lot of these other changes is because we'll have a lot more space to manufacture and to I have better margins on our things, and to be able to put more money into advertising in other places. I think that's kind of my goal right now. I like to see Facebook and Instagram, really care about, the little guys, I guess. The big box stores are going to come back. We're putting people like that out of business, but it's a money's game at this point. So that's a little unnerving, because the people that did invest all the money in the beginning, we don't really have a lot to show for it.
Tell us about, you were hacked on Facebook not that long ago. What was that experience like?
Well, and you're talking, another bad subject with Facebook. I was hacked, and we've tried to contact them for several days. We could not get a phone call back. We couldn't get a response. Okay, so it's kind of a long story. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. My employees, they log in and they do, nights and weekends on social media. Well, one of the girls that worked for me at the time, she had a Galaxy phone. It was like a Galaxy Note. And she had some type of malware on her phone. Apple products, they don't have that as much. It can happen, but it's very rarely that it does. Well, they put some malware on her phone, and it was, a keystroke repetitiveness, basically. And so she had typed in the password several times, so we got hacked. So they ended up these people, we found out later that they were in Kosovo, and the FBI, they have all this stuff too, the information of who they were, but it was bait clicking, and they were basically they took me off as and put me as a moderator, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't shut the site down or anything. So they were posting pornography, very raunchy stuff, even like children, like very inappropriate things. The way bait clicking works is that companies, real legit companies, will advertise with these companies that do this bait clicking. I don't know if you've ever seen like even some of these raunchy kind of cartoonish looking things, and people it's kind of like a train wreck. They can't not look at it. You wouldn't believe the click open rate that our site skyrocketed for our analytics, because it was showing all these nasty things. But it was just basically advertisements. Once you get in there, it was companies advertising with them. So there's like all these foreign companies that do this. So anyway, I couldn't get any help with Facebook, and I was to the point that I was having a nervous breakdown, because the stuff that was being served was, exactly what my brand is not about. It was disgusting, pornography and stuff. And so I just kind of balled up in a corner, and, I couldn't do anything. I didn't know what to do. And my husband, he was not my husband at the time, but he was there. He came in one day, and it was like 4 days later, we had already lost probably 100,000 followers at that point that I had, really worked hard on getting. And he says, Liz, there's this lady that I've heard on a podcast. He listens to podcasts. I've never listened to podcasts, but he listens to podcasts. She worked for the White House. She did internet security. He's like, I'm going to figure out who she is, and I'm going to find her. She's in Charlotte somewhere, and we're right outside of Charlotte. And so within like a day, he had found her, and she was out of town, and we couldn't get in touch with her. And I sent her a note, and I told her what was going on and what the people were doing, and how many girls that I had working for me, and how many women that I have following me, and, and showing her some of the pictures. And immediately after I sent that email, she called me. She's like, look, I'm out of town right now at a soccer thing for my daughter or son. She's like, but I'm getting on this right now. She's like, one of her coworkers, he was in India at the time, and she said, he's in India, but he's flying in tonight. As soon as he gets home, I'm going to have him get on it immediately in the morning after he rests. She had my site back up. My Facebook back within like several hours.
Wow.
It was unbelievable, but I had to pay for it, Yeah. So the reason why I want to tell this story is because I was lucky enough that I had the money to pay her, and it was not cheap. It was not cheap, but, Facebook did not protect me. They did not do anything about it. So you are responsible for your own, logins and things. You have to change your logins. You have to be careful with what devices you log in on. The two-step verification process is beautiful. Probably eventually they'll figure out how to hack that too. I'm using this thing called LastPass now, where you don't even have to type in anything. You go into LastPass and you put all of your passwords in there. And so you don't have to do all that, but LastPass has been hacked too. So, there's a lot of hacking going on out there in the world, and you just have to really be aware of it. It can happen to you. I would have never in a million years thought it would happen to me. But the day that my employee called me and she was crying, I heard it in her voice, and I just knew something was bad. It was really, really bad. And it could have put us out of business. We had hate mail. We had people calling us, telling us, how dare you show my daughter this? My daughter's 13 years old and she's following you. And all I could do was cry, because I'm hurting people whenever all I want to do is help people. Yeah. So, just try not to be a victim.
Man, what was the rebound like from that? Just customer service campaigns, people came back and understood. Anymore, it's getting so common. You would think people would see that more often these days.
Well, what we experienced was people trying to tell us what we needed to do, or just shut down your page, or you need to go in into this setting and you need to do this and you need that. We couldn't even post on our page. We couldn't even post anything. We'd have to go in as ourselves and send them messages. So for months, we had people having to go through like emails and stuff because we were really bombarded. We had thousands and thousands of messages from people, and we didn't want to not respond to them because that was a potential customer that we could get back on our to follow us again. Mm-hmm. But it really scared a lot of people because then they thought that they would be compromised or that they didn't want to order from us anymore because we were hacked on Facebook. It didn't have anything to do with our website, thankfully, or our terminal, our payment terminals or anything like that, which we have high security on. But Facebook obviously doesn't have high security. So, we lost a lot of customers for that. So, people don't understand it. People just don't really quite understand it yet. And it's happening. You hear it on the news and things like that, but I don't think people really understand what it can do to you.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about your role in the business when you're driving this big ship. If you, just looking at you and your business, and if you could give advice to someone else who's listening, running their own boutique business, where is your time most valuable today in your business? And what reports and metrics and tasks do you think are the biggest rocks for you to move each and every day?
For me, I feel like where I flourish in the company is buying, designing, manufacturing, and the marketing side of it. I'm more of an ideas person. If I could recommend, if anyone was going to start a company or if they're in a business and they have the same kind of, personality type as me, they need to find someone that is like their right hand, that is an organized type person that is good with processes and that really enjoy making sure that everything is done right and goes through a certain process, because I'm more of the type that I just do. I don't really think about it before. So I would recommend, finding the right people that are going to be alongside of you for that. That's been a struggle for me, is to find the right people that are like my right hand and my left hand. I have a lot of employees, but you have to have people that are really important, because when you spend that much time with someone, you get really personal, and so you got to find the right people that can handle working with you all the time, because, there's a lot that comes along with being a business owner like this. And then, every day, my most valuable time is, if I'm in the building, I notice a big difference in the quality of work that's being done. That's I wouldn't want to say a burden, but that's one of those things that weighs on me a lot, is that if I'm not in here, I feel kind of guilty, because I know I'm not doing justice to the company if I'm not in the building. But, I can't always be here. I have to go to market a lot. Um, I do want to spend time with my family, and I work on the weekends, nights and weekends a lot of times. So when I do take a break, it's like a hard break, a kind of hard stop, just to kind of revive when I feel like I'm getting to my breaking point. I just kind of hard stop. Um, but yeah, I mean, me being in the building really helps just the type of work that's getting done, and just people staying focused and stuff. I think it's very valuable for me to be here all the time. I'm working on helping build the processes. This company changes so much, even with like the algorithm changes and all. I mean, it's the web. You got to surf the wave, and it's always ever changing. So as soon as you create a process or you figure something out, it's probably going to change. So right now we're dealing with a lot of new processes and trying to put them in place. I'm more of the person that is like explaining why we should do it this way and not this way, or how this could affect it this way. I'm not the one actually putting it on paper in black and white and make sure that it's getting implemented. But as far as the idea of how the life cycle of the product is, I'm really involved in that right now.
Absolutely. The marketing piece of it, do you feel like you've had success in mixing which eggs are going in which baskets? You've got an app, you've got 50,000 followers on Pinterest. There's a number of new chat bots and all these things coming out. Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy discovering new places to market?
I do. I do think that I see where we put a lot of time and investment in something that might just be kind of a fly by night, but you have to try it. I think and then you've lost a month or several $1,000s, and I find that happen a lot. Something that just doesn't take off, but then there's the certain things that do really do well. I find us when we do shift focus like that, when there's always something changing, something's going to fall off. If you're putting all of your focus on this new app or just this new, like when all these shoppable Instagram comes along or whatever, maybe Pinterest didn't get done the way that it needed to be done that month, or, so it's kind of like it's a trade-off a lot of times. It's really difficult to make sure that every single aspect is looked over when you do change up your marketing plan, because once you throw in one more thing in there, it's either you have to hire someone else, or the people get stretched thin in certain other areas. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to be able to hire as many people as I needed to be able to do all these brand new things. That's the way that this business is going. There's all kinds of fun little bells and whistles, It is. It's scary though, because it's kind of like it promises you to do all these great things, but you have to be able to man it. If you don't have someone that is managing that new sparkle thing, whatever it is this week, it doesn't get done. It's not like automatically, people don't understand that once you bring in this add-on or whatever it is you're bringing in, you're going to have to manage it. So, and we're dealing with that too. We'll get something new and we'll try something new. And then, it's like, oh man, we got one more job to do. So it's like, how much can you add on to your plate, So.
Absolutely. So one last question before our final question, and hopefully one you can have fun with. I want to know what scares you the most: snakes, payroll, or internet trolls?
Oh my gosh. Definitely payroll. Woo! That hurts.
You're good to go.
You would think, and taxes. Oh my God. I'm in the 49% tax bracket. It's the 1%. And a lot of people want to get there, but they don't understand what it's like when you get there. That's hard. That's hard. Make sure you pay those bills.
Yes. Well, we are just about to wrap up, and I just want to commend you and thank you so much for spending your time with us today, Liz, and sharing your story on all levels, because I know you've talked about how much you want to mentor and support other women who are growing their own businesses, and I think that you have so many followers that you don't even see, you're not even aware of yet, and your story is going to impact them in multiple ways. So thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime. And as we wrap up, kind of a final question for you. When you have your exit strategy in place and the business is gone, it's sold, it's passed on to your daughter, whatever that may be, and you're off traveling the world as you love to do, you love to travel. I want to know, kind of looking back at all of this, what is a legacy that you really want to leave for people who read your story, read your book someday? And what are 2 truths that you feel you know to be true in this world that you wish you would have known sooner? So,
the legacy that I want to leave is that if you can think it and you want it, if you believe in yourself and you allow yourself to do the work, that it can happen. I want that to be the legacy, not just about me, but about other people. I want to leave that for them. And then the other question was, again, I'm sorry, what was the second piece of that?
The 2 truths that you know to be true in this world that you wish you'd have known sooner.
Okay. So when I was little and I was poor and I could have been hungry sometimes or didn't have the best clothes and all that kind of stuff, I thought it was the best thing in the world to have a big family and to have, big cars and boats and all these things that I have now. I just wish that I would have known then that stuff doesn't really matter. You can have anything in the world that you could ever want, and you can be as successful or popular or whatever. And that stuff is irrelevant to make you happy. I thought that if I worked really, really, really hard to get to a place where I was stable and I had a roof over my head and I had food in my mouth and I had, the things that I want. I don't have everything that I want, but I have everything that I need. I wish I would have known that sooner than I have figured it out now. I'm 40 years old. And now at this point, as far as materialistic things go, I could care less if I had any of it, because, I just think that the real things in life are free and you can't really touch them or hold them. And that's really what I'm taking from all this whole life, that, me looking back on.
So well said. Well, Liz, thank you so much for your time again today. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to get to visit with you again soon. Shout out to our listener of the week this week, ayoung112, who left us a review on Apple Podcasts and iTunes saying that Boutique Chat is my new favorite podcast. Ashley does an amazing job helping boutique owners and wholesalers both grow their business. I've been a Hub member since November, and it's made a huge change in my boutique. Community over competition, #Hubby for life. Thank you guys again for sharing your thoughts and your honest reviews with us wherever you listen to podcasts, and for sending me a screenshot of what you do while you're listening to the show over on Instagram at AJ Alderson or Boutique Hub Business. We love that you guys are loving this content and our awesome guests. Now, next week, and as we move forward, I'm really excited to begin diving into a few more solo episodes. I have a lot of thoughts that I would love to share with you on successful retailers today, both e-commerce and brick and mortar. Plus, how can wholesalers, brands, and designers maximize their business through the number of sales channels that they're currently using? So much to talk about. Plus, I want to dive more into some marketing strategies and mindset shifts that you can use no matter what type of business you run. So much more to come on that. All right, and the last bit I want to share with you this week is it's a big week at the Boutique Hub because we are beginning to announce our speakers and our sponsors for the 2018 Boutique Summit coming this June to Dallas, Texas. So if you haven't followed along yet, be sure that you do. Head on over to theboutiquehub.com/summit 2018. Thanks again for listening, you guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon, Boutique Boss. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.